with the Scott-Steiner-Bagwell partnership showing strong chemistry in the last few months after Scott established his heel character and Buff returned from neck injury. October '98 with Scott in a feud with brother Rick along with the involvement of Buff's mother Judy, saw the Steiner-Bagwell angles starting to translate big to the TV audience as a consistent viewership mover in one of the weekly featured segments on Monday nights. Scott and Buff started the month in a segment with Rick bringing out Judy Bagwell to confront Buff on his heel actions with Scott since rejoining the NWO, with this segment jumping around 1 million viewers to WCW's highest-rated quarter of the night with a 4.8 rating. The following week Steiner confronted Buff and Judy after Buff showed remorse a few days earlier on Thunder with the segment jumping over 600,000 viewers to a 4.6 rating, with Scott opening the crossover segment on October 19th in the final hype promo for the Rick Havoc match, closing the month with him and Buff reuniting a day after the Swerve calling out and attacking J.J. Dillon in a segment drawing another 4.6. 3 weeks from the first one-on-one Outsiders match, the Wolfpack arrived in a Hummer limo going straight to NWO Hollywood's locker room with Nash looking for Scott Hall in the wild opening segment starting with WCW's highest opener in almost 2 months with a 4.6 rating, with Nash, Luger and Conan then driving after Hall to all the bars in the city, leading to the payoff segment of them eventually finding him to start a Nash Hall brawl all over the bar drawing a 4.7. A week later Nash came out for a promo calling out Hall until he came out taunting Nash to lead to a car chase outside the United Center doing a 4.3, with Hall and Nash hyped to face each other 6 days from the pay-per-view in a tag match on October 19th, ending up with Nash coming out with a drink and both Hall and Nash drinking and saluting each other from both sides of the ring until Nash's reveal of his empty cup, in a match jumping over 500,000 viewers to the peak quarter of the night 4.5 rating. The Havoc follow-up saw Hall coming into Nash's locker room to shake his hand until him and Giant put him through a wall, with Hall also working a Hollywood vs. Wolfpack tag match an hour later jumping over 300,000 viewers to a 4.6 rating. The Flair vs. Bischoff feud continued in October in a series of high-profile segments doing big viewership gains with Bischoff attempting to keep Flair and the Horsemen off the show and out of buildings across the country. Bischoff started the month announcing to the crowd that Rick won't be there tonight, ending up with Hart and Anderson bringing out another Flair and Rick's son Reed to take down Eric in the main event quarter out drawing Raw 4.7 to 4.4. A week later Eric ordered a security team to not let Flair enter the United Center in Chicago, ending up with Flair arriving with building owner Bruce McArthur to lead to Eric being kicked out after a Bischoff-McArthur-Flair confrontation in the skybox in a segment jumping over 1.1 million viewers to a 4.6. October 19th from Minnesota's Target Center saw another high-profile crossover segment with the mayor of Minneapolis appearing to introduce Flair to the ring, leading to Eric coming out in a back-and-forth exchange with the mayor demanding Flair to leave the building, ending up with Eric again being forced to leave with his car being towed outside on the street in a segment jumping over 600,000 viewers to a 4.3 rating. With Flair vs. Bischoff set as one of the headline matches at Starrcade, Rick's in-ring return was teased on October 26 until Eric revealed it as a Flair vs. Hogan '94 pay-per-view match highlights bumping WCW another 600,000 viewers. October '98 was a transitional month for Rock, with everything being set and built towards November 15th at Survivor Series, while in the meantime continuing to get more over as a babyface by the week with his reactions on TV and on the road neck and neck with Austin, with the company as a result heavily pushing his new merchandise and potential crossover mainstream appearances, including the first hints of what's to come with him going face-to-face with Austin to a massive reaction on Heat on October 4th. And Vince McMahon booking him and Austin to team up for the first time on October 12 against Taker and Kane, doing a 4.2 rating and then going unopposed, jumping over 2.1 million viewers to a peak 6.2 rating. Rock worked a series of matches throughout the month, facing strong competition from big WCW main events head-to-head, but still bumping viewers for each one. First gaining over 300,000 viewers to a 4.5 rating in a main event against Taker on October 5th, then another 300,000 viewers to a 5.1 rating for a match with D'Lo a day after getting the biggest reaction on the pay-per-view for the People's Elbow, while closing the month in a match with Jaws bumping Raw over 1.4 million viewers. Ken Shamrock was officially cemented as a heel on October 12 with him winning a one-night tournament for the IC title after going over Blackman, Venus and X-Pac in matches drawing between 4.3 to 4.7 quarters, with the Shamrock vs X-Pac rematch the following week drawing a 5. Shamrock's two biggest numbers of the month came on October 5 and 26. First opening Raw's second hour in a match against Kane, gaining over a million viewers to a peak 5.3 rating, and then closing the month in the main event I Quit match against Steve Austin, doing a 5.1. The build-up to the Hogan vs. Warrior rematch was in the final stage, with the Warrior Mind Games angle continuing on October 5th and a segment of him showing up in a mirror backstage doing a 4.7 rating, with Hogan an hour earlier cutting a promo to hype up the match. Warrior worked his first TV match in over 2 years the following week, teaming up with Sting for the first time in 12 years against Hogan and Bret, jumping over 800,000 viewers to a peak 5.1 rating, which also beat a loaded tag match on Raw head-to-head with a 5.1 to 4.2 rating margin. Hogan called out Horace in the main event segment on October 19, 6 days from the pay-per-view, revealing that Horace is his nephew before beating him down to send a message to Warrior with him coming out for the go-home angle, and a segment drawing the joint highest rated quarter of the night with a 4.5 rating, as Hogan and Warrior closed the month and their program a day after Halloween Havoc, with Hogan and NWO Hollywood welcoming Horace to the NWO after passing the test, with Warrior coming out an hour later to a big reaction in front of an hometown crowd in Phoenix, taking out Hogan, Bischoff and NWO Hollywood in a segment jumping over 300,000 viewers to a 4.6 rating. Two weeks from a pay-per-view main event against each other, Kane and Undertaker worked hype TV matches on October 5th, with Kane against Shamrock and Taker against Rock, gaining combined over 1.5 million viewers to a peak 5.3 and 4.5 ratings. Taker and Kane teamed up in a main event tag match against Austin and Rock on October 12, doing a 4.2, with them working a pay-per-view main event rematch the following week in a casket match doing a 4.7 rating, while an hour earlier Undertaker and Paul Bearer came out for a promo a day after reuniting and turning heel on Kane to unveil their plans to form the Ministry, with the segment drawing Raw's highest quarter of the night with a 5.2. After Bret Hart turned heel on Sting to officially book their first ever match at Halloween Havoc, Sting and Bret worked a series of main event matches and angles to some of the biggest numbers of the month, with their program proving to lead to major viewership boosts on a weekly basis. A week after the turn, the Wolfpack and Sting arrived looking for Bret Hart all over the backstage area, before finding him to start a brawl which saw Sting picking up and dropping NWO Hollywood's limousine with a forklift in a segment opening big, with WCW in the lead with a 4.6 to 4.1 rating margin. 2 hours later, Bret and Sting were scheduled for their first match on TV in the main event, with Bret returning backstage to lead to a Sting vs. Bret brawl all over the Carolina Coliseum to close the show, with the match along with the unique visual of it all taking place in the backstage area leading to WCW jumping over 800,000 viewers and the overrun to a peak 5.4 rating. Sting came out for a promo the following week calling out Bret and Hogan, setting up a Blade Runners reunion with Sting and Warrior teaming up against Bret and Hogan in the main event tag match, drawing a peak 5.1, with Bret and Sting again working the main event spot on October 19th in a Havoc pay-per-view preview match, gaining over 600,000 viewers to another show-high 5 rating. As the following week Sting was written off TV with a knee injury angle until next April, while Bret closed the month main eventing the show in the U.S. title match against Dallas Page, doing a 4.3. For the 4th month in a row, Bill Goldberg had the highest rating average in the industry, building up to his title match against Dallas Page at the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view. Since his hyped main event against Sting on September 14, Goldberg was only used on TV in short sporadic appearances with barely any advertised segments or matches, continuing on October 5 with him doing a run-in to take out the Flock after Page's match against Canyon, setting up a stare-down with the matching segment jumping over 800,000 viewers to a 4.6 rating. Goldberg worked his first match on Monday night in almost a month against Giant on October 12, doing a 4.4 rating, which gave WCW its first quarter-hour win of the night with a 4.4 to 4.3. Goldberg and Page shot the final angle for the pay-per-view a week later, with Goldberg interrupting Page's match against Chris Jericho to lead to another confrontation, gaining over 700,000 viewers to a 4.3, setting the stage for the biggest number of the month the following week. Coming off the Halloween Havoc technical issues the night before, WCW made the decision to air the full Goldberg vs. Page pay-per-view match starting just as Raw was going on the air at 9 p.m., with the match ending up breaking all records, as even with Raw starting, WCW picked up huge with an additional 1.2 million viewers to an all-time record 7.2 rating, with a 7.2 to 3.3 gap of 3.9 rating points between the shows, also the biggest gap in history. Goldberg, who already held the top 2 highest-rated opposed quarters in history for his Georgia Dome match with Hogan and the tag match on August 24, added the 7.2 on October 26 to have the entire top 3. When it looked like the Steve Austin vs. Vince McMahon program reached its ceiling, Austin and McMahon, along with WWF's out-of-the-box creative team of Russo, Ferraro and McMahon, took things to the next level during the month, with the feud arguably peaking in October '98, with a string of some of the most memorable segments in company history happening back-to-back in an attempt to top the previous one on a weekly basis. Vince McMahon opened October in the hospital a week after the Taker leg-breaking angle with updates from him hyped throughout Raw, bumping the show over 800,000 viewers to a 4.8 rating for the first segment with Mankind, which also saw the debut of Mr. Socko. 90 minutes later the announcers went back to Vince for the final comments before Steve Austin attacked him in the hospital to open Raw's main event quarter, drawing a 4.4. Vince was back in the building, arriving in one of his Corvettes the following week, with him leaving the door open for Austin, entering the Nassau Coliseum parking lot driving a cement truck to fill up McMahon's car, before going to the ring for another Austin-McMahon confrontation, picking up over 1.3 million viewers to Raw's over 2-month high 5.9 rating, with Austin also working a tag match in the main event teaming with Rock against Taker and Kane doing a 4.2. The next week, a day after McMahon fired Austin to close the pay-per-view, McMahon and Austin were all over Raw in a show-long angle of Austin taking Vince hostage, ending up in the ring at over 11 p.m. with a massive gain of over 1.7 million viewers to a 6.3 rating, closing the month with the official introduction of Shane McMahon as a main TV character with a hyped documents reveal segment that saw Shane reinstating Austin, along with the first Vince vs. Shane confrontation gaining over 1.5 million viewers to a peak 5.5 rating, with Austin also working the main event an hour later in an I Quit match against Shamrock, picking up over 800,000 viewers to a 5.1.